First off, I'm not planning on spoiling anything from Deadpool and Wolverine in this review. This is just really high level stuff. I'm not going to tell you what happens in the movie. I'm not going to tell you who is in it besides the characters that have appeared in the first and second trailer. So not even people that have been in the most recent trailers. I'm just going to talk about people that have been like on TV promoting this movie on like Jimmy Kimmel and stuff. I will do a longer spoiler review video because I do think if you want to get into some of the specifics, like if you want to talk about this movie, talk about things that worked, things that didn't work, you need to talk about who is there and why. So that will come out soon. But this video is mostly for people who are thinking, should I go see this movie? This is something I like. And I'll tell you afterwards, I tweeted, I loved it, which I did. And I fully do. I stand by that. I will say, it is a different kind of I loved it than, say, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I also loved, and Endgame, which I also loved. I am, first of all, a Marvel guy. Like, I wouldn't say I'm a shill. I don't get paid by Marvel to like Marvel. I just do. So like when I hear about a new Marvel movie, I go, ooh, I'm excited. Cool. But whereas I know people that I love, that I respect, who just do not like Marvel movies, don't like superhero movies, are tired of them, whatever. And I get that. They hear about a new Marvel movie and they go, ugh, another one of these. That's fine. I think you could take that person and show them, let's say, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, and they would go, whoa, this is great. I love this. This is so much fun. I don't think you could do that with Deadpool and Wolverine. If you liked Deadpool, Deadpool 2, if you've always liked the X-Men movies and specifically Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in them, if you like comedies and you just enjoy the MCU generally, you're going to like this. If you don't like Deadpool, this is not going to be the movie that wins you over. Same for if you don't like the Marvel Universe or if you don't like superhero movies generally. Like, I think there's parts of this movie that are very well made and things that I think everybody can enjoy, but just overall, the experience of it, it's not for everybody. Now, I know sometimes when people use language like that, it almost feels like they're apologizing for something that they like, no, it's bad, but they like it and they have to. This isn't that. This is really just me being like, there are people who will enjoy this and people who will not. And I want to set your expectations because it is not the greatest one of these ever made, but it is also not the worst one of these ever made. I think a lot of the people that I've seen responding to it very positively are people that seem to like Marvel stuff and just in general will enjoy something like this. And a lot of the people I've seen responding to it very negatively are people who have had similar reactions to stuff like The Marvels and things that are not that, A+ Guardians of the Galaxy crowd pleasing movie that everyone can enjoy. But like for me specifically, I loved this movie. Part of why I love this movie is that I think they made it for me. And I can't help but love this movie. I know it has flaws. It's not perfect. And I'm not saying it's like a 5 out of 5 amazing movie, but I am saying that like it is a lot of fun. And if you're in for a fun ride, this is gonna be that. And I think that's part of it too. You have to judge every movie on its own terms. This is not pretending to be Saving Private Ryan or anything like that. It does go emotionally for some swings. It tries to create some character arcs that are somewhat dramatic. Some of them work, some of them are less successful. But overall, like, I think this movie is first and foremost a comedy set in a superhero world, which is what Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 were. No more so than something like Doctor Strange or Spider-Man or Shang-Chi, movies that I would say are action comedies. This I would say is a comedy action movie. And I think for a comedy, it can get by on just being funny. Like the jokes are good. If the jokes are good, people will have a good time and you'll like it. And I think the jokes in Deadpool and Wolverine are very good. I think the funniest moment in any Deadpool movie is from Deadpool 2. It is the parachuting scene. I think it is one of the funniest moments in any superhero movie and very many action movies. Like, I think that scene, all this setup, everything about it is great. I don't think this gets to quite that point. However, I do think there are some moments that are awesome and really, really funny. Some of them are just really funny lines that are executed well. Some of them are much longer bits where, like, over time, things will keep coming up and then there's a really satisfying payoff at some point. So just as a comedy, I think Deadpool and Wolverine works. Unless you don't like superheroes, which is fine, there's plenty of those people. But if you do, if you go to a movie like, let's see, what's one that I think, if you saw like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and went, that's not bad, a good time. Anything from that to like, wow, awesome, you're going to enjoy this. I have a list. Let's look at my list. It's still very basic. Not as good as Endgame. I think that's only a problem because I have seen people comparing it to Endgame. My MCU movie since Endgame. Which, like, what has that been? Like, well, I guess it's been a lot of movies, to be fair. There have been quite a few. But I think that when you put this next to Endgame, Endgame is in a different level. It's much grander in scale. I don't think this is quite that. But I think it is effective. I think it is succeeding on its terms, which is all I can ask. So let's start with the big one. Wolverine. Hugh Jackman is great. I don't know if this is the best Wolverine on screen, because I think Logan is probably the best Wolverine movie. And I think X-Men 2, and this is just my opinion because I love it so much, is the best movie with Wolverine. However, perhaps the best looking and acting performance of Wolverine comes from this movie. Like, because I think Logan is a specific version of Wolverine. It's not just like base Wolverine. I don't think we've gotten a lot of base Wolverine. And because of that, I think the Wolverine we get here is so good. Obviously, it looks fantastic. Hugh Jackman plays him. He's got a little bit more baggage than your traditional Wolverine, but I do think that rounds out to a version of the character that is somewhat familiar, right? Wolverine frequently has some baggage. Like, sometimes he's a hard-drinking, upset guy who doesn't like working with people, and like sometimes that's because of his old history, and sometimes it's because of a very recent thing that happened to him that has scarred him. But yeah, Hugh Jackman, one of the best to ever do it. I think I know I'm going to say this a couple times because I think a lot of ways they were one of the most successful parts of this movie, but like the Wolverine costume, when he loses the sleeves, is phenomenal. Looks perfect. And I was shocked at how good it was. Like, I never liked the sleeves. I remember when they tweeted out the first picture of the sleeves and the whole yellow costume, and I was psyched because, wow, that's a yellow Wolverine costume. Finally, thank God. And I was hoping, I know people said, well, part of the reason he has the sleeves is because I believe he's at high risk for skin cancer or something like that. So when you're shooting all these scenes outside, you don't want to have all skin exposed. That makes sense. And I can fully support putting sleeves on Hugh Jackman for that reason. Part of me was kind of hoping we would CGI him out. Or there would just be some point where in the movie where things take place inside or on a set and he takes off the sleeves. Thankfully he does. I'm only saying this because it's in all the trailers, but god damn, it looks good. Like, it just looks phenomenal. I think Hugh Jackman puts in a very good performance. I think Hugh Jackman is obviously a very strong actor when it comes to emotion and stuff like that, but I think he's also very funny. He's got some of my favorite jokes in this movie. Not necessarily my favorite. I think Ryan Reynolds had my favorite joke of the movie. Maybe not my favorite bit, but one of my favorite jokes. Like my favorite line that I could repeat to someone and just be like, that was awesome. I do think, looking back, a lot of Hugh Jackman's reactions are very funny, and not in that like, this stupid Deadpool, ha ha ha, but in just like, he isn't fully used to this. Like, he is not like Deadpool, fully up to speed on everything that's going on. It's a road movie, kind of, but it's a road movie where one character just drags another character in it. So like, that second character a lot of times is like, what's that? Like, and it's funny. It's very funny when he does that. I'm really trying so hard not to spoil it. Ryan Reynolds was as good as he usually is in these. I would say Deadpool 2 is still the best performance, but easily this is on, Deadpool 1's level. I think he had a lot of lines that were really funny, and I think overall he sold the emotion the way that you would want. I think his character gets more of a flat arc. There's not as much progression with him, whereas I do think Wolverine has the more, I don't want to say complex, because it's not very complex, but like, he has growth, whereas I think Deadpool doesn't, which I think is fine. Not every character needs an arc. Like, there are movies like Paddington where one character is just like, I know what I'm doing, and he's going to change everybody around him. I'm not sure if that's what this is, but all I'm saying is, you could make the case that this is a movie about Wolverine more than it is a movie about Deadpool, and I would understand that argument. And I think looking at it from that perspective makes it more successful. Two other actors in it. I'll say these are the two actors that have been advertised, that have been going on like Jimmy Kimmel and stuff talking about the movie. You know they're in it if you've seen any trailers. First one, Matthew McFadden, Tom from Succession. I think he's pretty good. Better than I expected. He puts a little bit more cheese into the performance than I think is like necessary, in terms of, there is a version of this performance that is phoned in, and that's bad. There's a version of this performance where he is performing adequately, and I'm like, good. That is all I expected. And then there's this where it's like a little bit more in certain bits, and like, he's having fun with it. I think it's not, you know what it is? He's not doing Tom again. This is not a super reserved, serious Matthew McFadden. This is a Matthew McFadden who can act out a little bit and have a little bit of fun with it. But then the other character that is in most of the marketing is Emma Corrin playing Cassandra Nova. So This is a version of the character from the comics. People that read the Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely run will be very familiar with Cassandra. Cassandra's come up from time to time since then. In fact, I just did a video on my second channel, the Nando Cut. The channel that this is, that has gone up early as of the time that I'm posting this review. That is the Marvel Snap lore video for Cassandra, because I think she's an interesting character, and like I think putting her in this context, like I understand why they chose Cassandra Nova. Partially it's because she fits what they're doing here, and partially it is because she's somewhat expendable. Like it's been however many X-Men movies, like 13 or 14 X-Men movies, and she hasn't shown up yet. So I think they kind of went like, who can we get away with that we're probably not going to use in the next 10 of these in the MCU? Cassandra Nova, yeah, she works. I think Emma Corrin's quite good. I liked Emma Corrin. I enjoyed Emma Corrin in Murder at the End of the World, the show they were on. Yeah, they were good. I don't think it was an amazing villain performance, but I do think they had a lot of juice. Like there was a presence. They were playing to the cheap seats, and I appreciate that. You couldn't miss this performance, and they were clearly having fun with it. It didn't just feel like a Dar-Ben or anything like that, but I don't think it hit quite as hard as, say, High Evolutionary. But it's somewhere in the middle, on the better side of the spectrum. Like I don't think I'm going to be thinking about this villain forever, but I do think that they were able to share the screen with the Deadpool, who's perfect, like this absolutely incredible adaptation of Deadpool Ryan Reynolds has put together, and a Wolverine that is close to peak Wolverine. So like it's easy to put a villain in a movie like that where they just fade right into the wallpaper. But I think Cassandra Nova, that's some other stuff that they were doing that was good. I will say Marvel, without getting into any other characters, but Cassandra Nova specifically, I would have liked a power signature, something. There's a lot of telekinesis that's just flying your hands around, and like I get it, a lot of stuff was going on in this movie. So, but I hope if we ever see other telekinetics in the MCU in the future, like a Jean Grey or a Hellion or something like that, that they have more of a power signature, because I think that is important. I already said the costumes are great, but goddamn, the costumes are good. It's on my list again. So I will say the Deadpool costume looks very good. I think that without getting into specifics, a lot of the other characters that you will see are in what I believe are costumes that I have not seen before, and I liked all of them. But like that Wolverine costume is one of the best. I just love it so much. Colors, like I loved how when it got kind of distressed, I liked the shoulders, how like the traps kind of came up, and because I didn't like the arm, like I think it was perfect. Some of the action was great. I think there were 2 action scenes that I remember. I'm not going to go into which ones, but I think they worked as well as any of these have in terms of being, creative, pretty well shot, playing well to the strength of Deadpool in terms of like the comedy, and also just playing well to the strength of Wolverine in terms of like what he can do and what makes a Wolverine fight fun to watch. So I think they did that very well sometimes. But then there were other action sequences that I liked, but I have to watch again, because I don't think they did an amazing job focusing on certain things. Sometimes there was too much focus, and I would have liked to have seen a little bit wider. And sometimes there was not enough focus, and I was kind of shifting between watching certain characters do things at once. But I think the ambition in those scenes was great, and it's just why it's like I want to see that scene again and again and again so I can catch every detail. Stuff like that. But it's not the best action Marvel's ever put together, but I do think there is some action that looks very good. Soundtrack was fun. I like the soundtrack. One of the first songs that they play makes me go like, yeah, this movie's for me, because this was a song from my childhood, and here it is now, and I'm enjoying it now. But if you showed this to someone from, I don't know, like Gen Z, I don't think this would really work for them. Like I think they'd still enjoy it, but I'd also say there's a good chance they've never heard it before. But that's fine. But again, why this movie was made for me. Like there was a board with just do it for him and pictures of me all around it that everybody looked at every day on set, and like Sean Levy said to Hugh Jackman and Brian Reynolds, like, we're making this one for Dando, and they did, which is great. Okay, so I thought this shares some things with my pitch, not that many though, and I think there's certain things that's like they're making a Wolverine and Deadpool movie to go, well, they're going to do these things then. Like this will kind of be how this movie is constructed, and I think that was fun. Oh, cameos. Okay, so I won't say what any of them are. I think they were great. I think they were really creative, done well. I think the idea, without getting into any specifics, why they were there felt smart. Like it made sense why we saw all the people and things we saw and stuff. And I think all of those actors were also really giving it 110%, which I appreciated. Obviously I had favorites. We'll talk about that later. Overall, I had a very good time with this movie. Like I really liked it. I would say I loved it. Like, I really did love the experience of it. I understand that it's not as good as some of the other Marvel movies that I've loved, but again, you know, we love things for different reasons, and I love this because it was funny, it was brisk, fun, action was entertaining, cameos were great. Like, because to some extent, I imagine people will complain like, oh, it's cameos, and it's like, yeah, it is. So what? Like, sometimes it's cameos. Same way sometimes, like, a character in an action movie does a cool pose, and you're like, why are they doing a cool pose? And it's because they do. And that's fine. It's not nothing but cameos. I think that's what, for me, makes it more than just a gratuitous cameo fest. I've heard it compared to The Flash, a movie that I think has a pretty strong beginning and an end that does kind of fall apart. And I think those cameos are absolutely opposite of this, where you're just looking at stuff and going, ooh, it's that thing, as opposed to this, which I think integrates them naturally into the story and is fun. I had fun, and I think if you think you will have fun with this, you probably will. If you think you won't, there's a good chance you won't. That's okay. And like I said, I will do a spoiler-full conversation about this. I do want to see it again before I do that, so it'll probably be in a couple of days. I'll give people some time to see it. I would say watch out, because there are just like YouTube videos I have seen that are people recording the movie. It's like in cameras and stuff. So it's not like an official scene, but just like scenes from the end, scenes from the middle, things that you should not see before going to the movie if you want to remain unspoiled. So there's like autoplay sometimes on your homepage on YouTube. So like watch out for that. But also if you get spoiled, it's not the end of the world, because the who is fun, but the how is what matters. The how the characters show up, the how the characters are used and stuff, that's what really gets you. There's a little bit of the surprise factor of like, oh my God, it's that. But really, like, there's more to it than that. Again, that's why it's not The Flash. If you enjoyed this video and like hearing me talk about X-Men, I've been doing it a lot recently. On my channel, Nando V Movies, I've got a video called In Defense of the X-Men Movies Nobody Liked. Like, for instance, X-Men Origins Wolverine, where Deadpool comes from. Just talking about some of the things in that work, so you can watch that now. And my next video that's going to come out on YouTube eventually is my pitch for a Magneto and the Brotherhood of Mutants movie. This would take place somewhere in the MCU, kind of, maybe. It's not really connected to that. Like, Iron Man doesn't show up, but it is a movie that, like, if they wanted to weasel it into the MCU and say, like, nobody heard about it because it takes place in the past, I think they could do it. But it was more of a challenge of, like, what would a fun Brotherhood of Mutants origin story be? And that'll be on YouTube eventually, but if you want to watch it early, go over to this video's sponsor, Nebula. That's right, Nebula is fantastic. It is a subscription streaming service that I helped to create. Tons of other creators that have a lot to say about Deadpool and stuff like that are there. Also, non-Deadpool creators, so it covers both the Deadpool and the non-Deadpool creators. But yeah, my Magneto and the Brotherhood of Mutants pitch is on Nebula early. All my videos go up one video early from Nando V Movies. The Nando cut's a little trickier because those videos come out like the next day. But when I have like a little runway, I'll put a video up early. And that's what I do with my Marvel Snap videos, where I talk about a specific character in detail because I know who's coming eventually. I can make one of those, you know, a week in advance. So right now the Cassandra Nova one is on Nebula early. But that is not all Nebula is for, because we have so much Nebula exclusive content. We've obviously got Jetlag, Patrick Willems has made a lot of Nebula exclusive videos, and we've got a new show called The Getaway that was so much fun. I was at the premiere a couple of weeks ago. Basically, it's a bunch of YouTubers, and they're all brought together to do a travel game show kind of thing, but there is a twist that makes it more fun than just your average one of these, and it's that every single player thinks they are the single traitor, or snitch as they call it in the game. So they're all trying to undermine each other and fight against each other without knowing that they're all pretty much doing the same thing. But luckily, the show is filled with very fun and lovable YouTubers, all trying to trick each other without knowing they're all also being tricked. I've heard people call it a game show, but also a prank show, which I think is a pretty good way to describe it. So that's The Getaway. New episodes come out weekly. So Nebula is an incredible deal. It is $50 a year, but if you use my code, TheNandoCut, you can get a yearly subscription to Nebula for just under $2.50 a month. It's a terrific deal. Go check it out. So that is go.nebula.tv/TheNandoCut. Now, thank you so much for watching this video. Look out for my spoiler full review conversation video that'll be coming up soon, and all my other X-Men videos, everything like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. That's all I got. Stay safe. See you next time.